Hey, welcome to another Brewster podcast. It's Ted Schmidt, GM of the California Crusaders, and Randy Weigand, GM of the San Fernando Bears, who is back with me again. Hi, Randy.
Hi, Theodore.
We were supposed to have, Steven here this morning to discuss as well, but he has a job interview, so anybody listening to this, good luck, Steven, although by the time you listen to this, it's probably over. But I think that's the best reason to not show up for a podcast that we've ever had. That's a good one.
This is true.
So today we're going to discuss we did some crowdsourcing for free agent contract predictions, and we are going to discuss what people thought players might get. And there was some good range on it. First, I want to say thank you to all the people that filled out that form and sent it back to me. I really do appreciate it. It makes this a lot more fun when more people participate, and couldn't have done it without all that help. So thanks, everybody. So yeah, like the numbers we got were kind of, fairly consistent, which is, in some cases, a couple outliers here and there. I figured we'll just jump into it. Maybe, do you have any thoughts? Did you get to look at the file yet?
I did.
Oh, that's right.
I managed to load it up after work today, and I haven't actually looked through the free agency guys yet. I was going to pull that up as we were kind of going through it, but it's interesting from what I hear.
The demands are low. And there's some guys that are still like crazy, go nuts, bonkers, but not so much as at least to me, it just doesn't look like it has in previous years. It looks kind of more like it did maybe 4 or 5 seasons ago. So I thought
demand will probably drive some of those prices up,
which is nice. I would rather have it that way, where demand's driving the prices up, and not where we're all sitting on our thumbs waiting for the prices to come down so we can actually bid.
I agree.
So it'll be interesting to see how this goes, because it's been my ideas about what free agent numbers should be are a good deal affected by the fact that we've had to deal with what I thought were bloated asking prices in recent years, where people were deciding, did they even want to meet the guys, even get close to their demands. Whereas this year, I think you're right. We could see people bidding guys up. Which is a nice change, but I wonder how that's going to affect what people expectations were. So I don't know. Do you have any particular way you wanted to do this, or just jump right in and just kind of go down the list?
Might as well, I guess, just probably go in the order that you posted them. That way people can kind of follow along on the...
Sure. So we can talk about the guys that signed extensions, because I think it's interesting to see what we thought Dempster would get in free agency compared to what he signed for. And so the average, I find the years thing to be kind of interesting on this. People were all over the place, and I don't know if, not so much on Dempster, but on a lot of guys. And I don't know so much if people were, when they filled this out, were thinking those are the years I'm guaranteeing, and they weren't counting the options or what. But I don't, there were a couple people, on Dempster, somebody gave him less than 6 years. So his average years on this is 5.5, but I can't imagine submitting a free agent contract for Dempster that's not going to go 6 years. It just won't be competitive, right? Someone else will.
It's worth noting that I think the person who went lower gave a higher average annual value.
Right, they did too. So, and maybe that was their reasoning for being able to do it, but it always seems like, quite often, at least, players take the longer deal. Yeah. That's a real life thing, but I think they do here too.
I think I went with 6 for 26 for my prediction on Dempster, and he got 6 for 22.
Right. Yeah. And the average prediction on him was 5.5 and 28 ish, which I think is, that's a little more than you, but in terms of average value. But I think we were all pretty consistent there. Everybody was kind of in that 26 to, and the highest was a 29. So,
yeah, and if you had told the person that gave the lower amount, hey, stretch to 6 years, they probably would have dropped it down into the 27 or 28 range.
Right, so we were pretty consistent there, and that's, I think that's about we're starting off with kind of a thud, because 1, Dempster didn't go to free agency, but 2, that seems reasonable. Those seems that's...
Basically, our league is saying that Arthur Dempster, 4-time Nebraska winner now? 3, I think?
Yeah.
Is worth 1/4 of your salary cap.
Right. And, that's about, I don't know if we think he's worth that, but necessarily, but, we know that's what he's going to cost. I think we have a really if someone did a dollars per WAR free agent analysis and then like a dollars per WAR like arbitration controlled analysis and put out those numbers, I think we'd be really surprised some of the guys that we're overpaying and underpaying. We very much still operate in a like 90s and maybe early 2000s baseball, like impact name value sort of model, with using advanced stats has mitigated that some, but we don't have like the rigorous, like, this is how much a win is worth sort of stuff that, you know, that is driving actual baseball now. So it'd be interesting to see how much that would be different. I guess
I actually have data. I don't have individual player data, but I do have how much since '95, how much every team has spent per win, like not WAR, just actual baseball games won. And some of those numbers are fairly interesting because you see, obviously, it's skewed somewhat because you get a team like Aaron the last couple of years, mainly before he signed Cannon, that was winning mid-90s games with all guys that are in their 500K or early arbitration years. So that kind of skewed the system a little bit. But then you see teams like, I think Charm City last year won like 60 games and spent like over $100 million, which is like, yee.
Right. And yeah, and so there's those circumstances that mess it up. And the other thing with the dollar per WAR values is that they're not, they assume that every one win has the same marginal cost, and that's not the case, right? Like per player, like a 2-win player has a certain cost per win, but a 4-win, you know, like let's say a 5-win player, those extra 2 wins that, or 2 or 3 wins that 5-win player gives you over the standard starter are actually like the marginal value per each of those wins, because you're condensing it into one player, is actually higher. So the dollar per WAR things get a little bit goofy, but the point is that we're probably not very efficient in how we spend our money. So
mostly,
what's that?
I said most likely not.
So moving on to Moro Flores, who, you know, I was kind of wondering how much the shine would come off of him given his age, because he has been such a good pitcher. But then, you know, once people get older, it's amazing how, like, if you hit free agency in your 20s, you just get so much more money and longer deals, and that's always been the way it is, because people think I can tie this piece up forever. And one of the ways that you can kind of beat the system a little bit is to just deal with the fact that you'll have to replace guys every year and sign older guys to cheaper deals. But people just don't want to deal with the headache, so they bid up the young dudes for longer deals. So I was wondering how much that would affect Flores. And really, it didn't do too much. His average was 4.6 years and about $20 million a year. So people were handling, you know, Arthur Dempster was getting $150 million in his contract, and Moro Flores is only getting about 95. And this is
I freely admit and it would be even lower if I hadn't gone long and high on Flores.
Yeah, you were.
I was the one.
You were the one I was 6 for 25. The lowest on him was a 3 by. Well, actually, there was a 5 by 15, which I just think probably is a little optimistic on average annual value for him. Mm-hmm. But there's a 3 by 19 that seems a little short. So I think he could. I think that's a pretty good prediction. You know, like somewhere between. I think probably 5 when you put options in. But do you have a clown in there? That's a phone. That's a phone vibrating on something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my phone vibrating. I'm trying to turn off the. I'm attempting to turn my vibrating, so it goes straight silent, and it's not cooperating well.
I enjoyed when I thought there was a clown rolling around in there. That'd be even better.
It's Steven has robots. I have a clown. It's okay.
But I don't know. You think it's about right for Flores? You think he'll, you know, like between 4 and 5 and $20 million a year? Or do you think he'll get more or less?
Well, I mean, it's worth noting that his ask is 24.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Given that he's, I think, pretty clearly, depending on how you value Jimmy Greenwood, the top pitcher on the market. And while he's older,
and that could drive him up some, right? Like if a Dempster had been in here, he might get a little bit less, but now you're right, he is the best guy in this group. So,
and he's older, but he's only 31.
Right.
And he just turned 31 in October, so he will pitch all of next year except for the playoffs at 31 years old. So if you sign him to a 6-year deal, I'm assuming you're going to tack some options on there. It's worth noting mine did not account for options.
Yeah, and
so I'm assuming that the 6 for 150 will have the last year or two will be a team option or a vesting option of some kind of like Aaron did with Gomez, that if he ages not so well, you can finagle it and have him fall a couple innings short of his vesting option, and he's a free agent.
yeah, and that's not the worst idea. I just assumed most people were just not, we're just going for years and dollars and forgetting it about options just because it's easier. That's kind of what I wanted everyone to do. This would have gotten crazy if people were like, I want this many guaranteed dollars and this many, which there's no way I was doing that math. Yeah, I think the pitchers over 30 are a rough crowd.
Well, the two top ones are 31. So
right, but you just never know with those guys. They can go so fast, and if they get hurt when they're over 30, a la Lelouch just a little bit ago, poor Marco.
I don't know if Ignacio was over 30 either. But
he was just always hurt though.
Basically with Marco. Yeah, that's true.
But if they get hurt over 30, there's a good chance that they're not coming back the same. So I always, I could easily see. I don't think Flores will get 6. I mean, well, there's always somebody willing to do it, but like, I wouldn't want to give one of those guys more than 3 guaranteed years, knowing that.
That's true, but I also think he's gonna probably get more than 20 a year.
Yeah, he could, and there's some money to be spent. That's a good point.
Especially because, like I said, Dempster's off the market. Greenwood, Flores will work for most teams. Greenwood will not work for every team.
Right.
As a pitcher.
Right, and he's not as good, right? Let's moving on to him. The average on him was about 4.5 years and a little over 16 million. I think he's one that I don't know. He could get bid up really high, especially after the year he had last year. If he hadn't had that year, I could have seen him going to someone as a bargain.
The thing with Greenwood is you need to have, because he's not going to strike guys out and he's not going to walk guys. So there's going to be a lot of balls put in play. So if you don't have a good defense and you have Jimmy Greenwood on your staff, that could end badly.
Yeah.
Very, very badly. Like me, I mean, Greenwood is not a guy that I would fit for my team because I don't have a lot of range on defense. And I like pitchers that strike people out. That's how I build my staff. I mean, there's various successful ways to build your staff. That's just how I choose to do mine, but he's not a fit for everybody.
No, and I guess one of the things with Greenwood, I'm having problems here for a second. Okay, got it taken care of. How much did his BABIP, and he lost a point of stuff just recently here. How much did his BABIP drive his stats last year?
I would be willing to bet. I don't know, but I'd be willing to bet it's pretty significant because
he's right at his career number.
Well, what's his career number?
296, and he was actually above it. He was at 306 last year.
So that's right about 296 is about league average, isn't it?
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, and the weird thing though is that he allowed his incredible walk rate stayed the same. He cut his normal home run rate in half.
And he was in Calgary. Which is...
I don't know what happened with Jimmy Greenwood last year. Who knows? Maybe he got like a legitimate motion increase that was hidden kind of inside that 8 with the rating changes. And I don't know. I don't know what to make of Jimmy Greenwood. He will be on a team. That is what I know will happen. Someone will pay some amount of dollars for him.
I think he's fairly comfortably the number 2 pitcher on the market.
Yeah, I think he is, and that'll probably drive him up. Do you think that's 16? I think the years are about right there, somewhere between 4 and 5 years. Do you think that 16 is reasonable, or do you think he'll go up higher?
I don't know if he'll get the 16, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Do you think he'll go cheaper than that?
I could see him anywhere between like 15 and 18. I don't think Greenwood gets a 9-figure deal.
So
I don't think he hit.
there were 14 to 16 was the range on him, except for one outlier of 22. But I could see that happening as well. The 22 was submitted by a gentleman who notably loves high motion. So that clues you into who that might be. That makes sense. but
Greenwood's right-handed.
yeah, that's true. But you know what? High motion righties.
Otherwise, if he's left-handed, it'd have been 25.
Yeah, no, but I think that's. I mean, I could see him getting that. Like, you never know where demand's going to drive people. We're talking about Stever. Stever had generally high bids on everybody. He was on the higher end, and I don't think they're unreasonable. I think looking at what these guys are asking for now, they're going to end up being high. But I think Stever just kind of was more on the demand will drive stuff up on a lot of players, and I think he can be right. You know, it's so that wasn't like an inconsistent, crazy Greenwood he had higher than everyone else. It was just kind of along the lines of most of his. Ramos is up. He got extended. It'll be interesting. I don't know kind of what to make of his opting out and taking more money, but only marginally more for 2 more years, whatever. But had he gone to free agency, people thought he would have been somewhere between 3 and 4 years. They had 3.75 and about 11 million per.
And what did he end up getting again?
Less than that. I think, didn't he take like 2 years of 6 or something? Wasn't it like some just stupidly? He got 2 years, 6 million per. Makes no sense. OTP contract logic. I think I'm going to do all that effort to put all this stuff together, and what we will find out is there is no pattern, and it is ridiculous and poor. Yes. Enrique Gomez. I think he's an interesting one, right? Because Gomez has this great track record. He was still pretty good last year, but I think he looks really dangerous right now in terms of his arm is...
I agree, which is why I was far and away the low bid on Enrique Gomez.
Yeah, with your 1 for $5 million, which admittedly, friend...
Well, that's what I think he's worth, but let's face it, Enrique Gomez is worth whatever Fred Holmes has on his budget.
Yeah, and maybe he'll... I think the numbers here were anywhere from 15... 16 was the highest average annual value, but that was a 1-year deal submitted by someone, and the lowest was your 5. Most of the numbers were kind of in the 12, 15 range. So he averaged, 2 years, 12 million. Although if you take your 5 out, more like 13 to 15.
I'm assuming all those 3-year deals, by the way, are like 1 year with 2 team options.
I'm absolutely certain they are. And if you give him more than a guaranteed year, you're crazy. But I could see him, that's why I think you're seeing the 3-year deals here. 3 years, 1 year, they're thinking options on all those when they're submitting these. And I think that's about right, because I find it very unlikely that Enrique Gomez will be effective in 2030 and 2039. He might not be in 2038, but it's hard to say. He might if he's found his new level, that's fine, but he might not have. Now, the interesting thing here, though, is that Enrique Gomez last year was, let's go look at him really quick. I don't think he was that good after his ratings lumped in the second half. 2037 pitching split. So yeah, Enrique Gomez, actually, he was really good in September. He was terrible in July, and actually he was bad in April and May. So he was better in the second half, and that was after his ratings started to lump. But what's interesting is the game's calling him a 50 now. He's lost 4 miles an hour in the last year. And he was a 89 FIP minus, which is pretty good. Pretty good player. FIP was right at 4. It's interesting how people will bid $15 million for that when it's Enrique Gomez. You could probably find, who else is, what was, it's going back to Edmonton, what was Jesus Ramos's FIP? 4.19. 6 million people are, or 12, they were saying 12. Okay, so maybe we are a little consistent here. I thought there was more of a bigger split there, but maybe not. Next one's, well, there we go. Here's another one to compare. Chris Rios, right? So Rios, averages on him were 4.8 and 12 million. And a lot of difference in the ranges on the deals that people were offering Chris Million. What were your thoughts when you looked at him?
Well, I'm naturally I don't like low stamina starters. I've kind of been on record with that on numerous occasions, and I know they can work. Gomez for years, obviously. Adam Barnard for Omaha right now is doing pretty well as a 3 or 4 stamina starter. Even Rin last year as a 3 did pretty well. But I mean, if you manage Rios properly, he can be a decent guy. But I think he's had some injury issues. He just had a couple of strains last year that knocked him out. I don't know why he only started. Oh, because he was traded. That's why. Didn't realize. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was looking at 13 and 19 starts. I'm like, why? But then I realized I was split between 2 teams.
right.
Because I'm
And
dumb.
he's not a ton of innings. He's not that guy that's just throwing tons of innings, but 180 is not bad. And this is kind of more what I was trying to talk about before. His career FIP is 4, and that's about looks like maybe what you can expect out of Enrique Gomez. And here's a younger guy, and people are willing to pay him $4 or $5 million less than they're willing to pay Enrique Gomez. And yeah, that's 1 year for Gomez, and it's a longer deal for Rios. And I understand that, like, the length, and maybe you don't want to, but it's just kind of interesting how just previous star value continues to drive up contract price. Perceptions of what guys are worth are just odd at times. And that's not like I was amazingly better than this. I actually said 6 for 14 on him, and I was probably I'm the largest contract to Rios because, again, he's 28. I don't there's a 3-year deal in there, and I just don't think that's
No, I don't think you can give him. I don't think you can give him a 3-year deal. I mean, I
right.
think 4 is.
I can see the
I
desire to
think
give him a 3-year deal. He's
if you're talking, unless that 3-year deal was they were just talking guaranteed years.
well, maybe, but right. You could give him 3 guaranteed and a couple options, but
But even if you stretch him to full 6, he'll start next year at 29, so that'll get him through 35. And I mean, yeah, pitchers drop off before 35 all the
right,
time.
but you'd only have to
but
guarantee through 33. So
Yeah, and it's not. You could fairly reasonably predict that barring injury, the guy's going to hold up past 33.
So I think this is one where I think that he is going to get more than what this crowdsource prediction is. The average here again is 4.8 and 11.75, and I think he's going to beat that easily.
Well, because I think he's probably after. I mean, there's Flores, Gap, Greenwood, Gap, Rios, and then I mean a whole lot of meh.
Yeah, and I
I
agree.
mean,
I think when people
Gomez
miss
in there.
out and they're reevaluating who's left, Chris Rios is starting to look pretty good.
Yes, he is.
As opposed to the next guy, who I think is possibly one of the most variable players in here. And one, in terms of what he can actually do, but two, in terms of the contracts that people said they would offer. We had as high as 15 million average annual value and as low as 5. So
And was I the 5? I think I feel like I was in the low end.
you're on the low end. You're the 5. Most people were 3 to 4 years on George's.
We agree on that much.
I'm
We
kind
feel
of with you. I actually wouldn't bid on him at all because I don't like people who you don't know what the hell you're going to get. It could just be anything.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I
Um,
think I mean, I wouldn't bid on George's either, and I am in the market for a starting pitcher, and I'm probably going to pass on him unless he drops significantly, which I don't think he will.
no,
'Cause I think somebody will take him.
no, and
But
clearly people see some things they like because I mean we've got I said 4 for 10, but I wouldn't pay that. I was just trying to predict what I think he would get.
I agree. I took that to be the same way in that regard.
Yeah, but there's a 4 for 15 in here, which is I mean that's 4 times the value of your 3 for 5, but it's twice the value of somebody who said 3 for 8 and somebody said 3 for 6. So it's not like you were crazy low. There's just a huge range on him, and I do wonder. And that 4 for 15 wasn't. There's a 3 for 15. So it's
And
yeah, it's almost the averages on him were 3 years, 3.3 years and 9.8 million per year. And
but we didn't get there by clustering together. We got there by going the widely split route.
right. So I have no idea what he's going to get. Next up's Pepe Castillo, who you don't even think is going to get signed. which I disagree with. But,
did I put that he wouldn't get signed or that he wasn't worth signing?
oh, you know what? I don't know because I used the one column. That's a good point.
Yeah, so I think I put that he wasn't worth signing because I don't think he is. But
well, he's been a decent pitcher for a while. Do you just think that the shine's come off of him enough that he's fallen apart enough that he's just not going to be anymore? Because there was a long period of time there when he was a pretty decent pitcher. Never looked good doing it. It was ugly how he got there, but it was it worked.
I mean, the game is rating him as a 35, a 5.68, and he has exactly one pitch that is. His pitches are 6.6, 3, 4, 7.
On the other hand, he has a reliever, but he threw 67 relief innings in Huntsville last year and got to put up a 3.61 ERA doing it. So,
and then he started 10 games in Long Beach and put up a 7.04 ERA.
We weren't going to talk about that. We discussed. Yeah, I don't know. So I think Castillo. I only have Castillo in there just because I wanted one older, fallen apart guy to see what people thought about that. Not because these other guys are considerably better pitchers, but I wanted to know what people thought.
His splits last year as a reliever, he had a 3.92 ERA in 36 appearances. In 14 starts, he had a 6.22 with a 1.6 WHIP.
So don't start him, but.
Starting Pepe Castillo's bad because he's only a 4 stamina anyway.
Yeah.
So if you could start 4 stamina Chris Rios because he's good,
right?
But you don't start a 4 stamina mediocre guy. And unfortunately for Pepe, that's what he is at this point.
No, and most of the numbers reflect that. I mean, there are people giving. I would expect these maybe a little low, but I mean, his averages were 2.6 and 6 a year on average annual value, and those might be a little high, but I could see him getting that, especially if it's kind of a 1+ option sort of situation.
Well, but also, so basically our league is saying that Pepe Castillo is worth what Jesus Ramos signed for. Yeah.
Well, except we don't think that what Jesus Ramos signed for is realistic. I mean, we thought he would get almost twice that in free agency. So
it's kind of funny to just put that in perspective when you look at how we value players versus how OOTP apparently values players.
Right. And it's this is the sort of thing where, if you can, I'm not going to say if Pepe Castillo might bounce back a little bit and be fine, but the kind of performance he turned in Long Beach last year, you don't pay for that at all. You play a quad A guy who's making $500K, right? And this is one of those chances to nickel and dime yourself out of salary space. So that's it for the starters. Moving on to relief guys. Do you want to? It takes. I don't know how I would do it. We should have set up if Steven could have done this, we could have done a draft and done a contract draft and see who take highs and lows on guys and see who won. But I don't want to figure that out. So let's do relief pitchers. Luis Ortega, probably one of the better relievers in the league.
The game thinks so. It rates him an 80.
Yeah, although his year last year wasn't so great, right? It wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he was not good, but he wasn't amazing. If I'm correct, right? Oh no, pretty good. Never mind.
You're mistaken.
I don't know what I was
wrong.
looking at. He was pretty. Oh yeah, he was pretty damn good. 1.7 FIP. Okay, I must have. Yeah, and he is asking
and nearly 4 WAR out of the bullpen, which is insane.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Insane. I wonder what the hell I was looking at. Anyway, the longest years we have on him is 5. The shortest is 2. That 2 does have the highest value at 4.5, and the 5 years right along median with an 11 average annual value, and that's about what we're seeing. 3.6 years, 11.4 million. And this one, there's very little variation in the predictions, which is kind of interesting. It's like people just seem to have a range of what they expect these top relievers to go for.
Well, I think you and I were talking a couple seasons ago when you said there's no such thing as a $6 million reliever.
Yeah.
You're either an elite guy, in which case you get near 8 figures, or you're a $2 million reliever.
Right.
There's no such thing as a $6 million reliever.
And it's not that there's not relievers that are worth that. It's that just doesn't seem the way the market works. The market basically says, I will pay $2 million or less for a guy, And then I will not pay for a reliever until he's so good that the bidding drives the price up to the 10, 11 range.
And I think Ortega's very clearly in the.
Yeah.
And he's worth. And even me, who doesn't like paying bullpen guys, for a 27-year-old guy in his prime, he'll be 28 to start next season. You pay him 8 figures a year. You just do.
Well, I see, and that's the. Would you rather have Luis Ortega for 5 years at $11 million a year, or would you rather have him for 2 years at 14.5?
I would rather pay him the longer term because I think you're getting.
See, I'm the other way. I would rather pay him the 14.5. I don't want to do either one, and I wouldn't do either one.
And I'm with you on that. But
when you have a pitcher's park, you don't pay relievers. But I guess the reason is, you know what? He's only 27. I was thinking he was a little older than that.
No, the 27 is the only reason why I'm giving him, even considering the 5 years.
Yeah, I thought he was 29. So okay, I might take the 5.11. I think
if you're asking me if I'm paying,
I think he's going to come in.
If I'm paying,
oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're asking me if I'm paying the next guy 5 years, the answer is no.
Right, and I think Ortega will come in right around this, don't you? I mean, that's a pretty good prediction.
I agree.
Bakitsky, Vodak. Nice. There's a little variance here. Somebody had him at 2 for 6, or total of 12.
In fact, but I think in honor of Mr. Batitsky, I'm gonna make myself a Vodak right now. So carry on. But
yeah, they had him there's a 2-year at 11 per year. There's a 2-year at 6 per year. There's a 4 for 10 per year. So yeah, it's some range on him. Averages come out to about little over 3 years, and then 9.16 million. So there's a recognition that he is not in the Luis Ortega realm anymore.
And I think that's a combo of him being 3 years older and also just a tick down on the performance. Which, there's no shame in being a tick down on Ortega. There's very few relievers that are at his level.
Right. Well, the other thing too is that Bakitsky's thrown in a couple duds. He's...
Yes, he has. He's had some great years, but yeah, there's been some decided
and I wonder,
not so great ones.
I wonder how much that drives some of this. I think that's going to be about right on him, though. I'm kind of... It's funny to me how much... looking at these reliever predictions, they just seem to be more kind of in line with what I'd expect than some of the other ones. Not that the other ones are bad, but these are just... I think these are... If you're going to pick a group where everybody got it right, I think it's going to be the relievers. Next up is Hiroyuki Rin. Average predictions on him were 3 years and just under $9 million.
Which I wonder if people were thinking that as a reliever or as a starter, because he was predominantly a starter last year.
Yeah, I don't know. That was the same question I had. I think, interestingly, he may have the same value. Well, he may have the same value either way, right? Because as a reliever, he's pretty good. And as a starter, he's kind of middling. And $9 million for a starter is about right in free agency for a middle of the rotation to back rotation short inning guy, and $9 million for a reliever that's not super elite but pretty damn good is also not unreasonable. I don't know that it matters. Is the answer.
And one thing I did notice when you factor in if you count Rin as a starter is there's a lot of low stamina starters on the market this year.
Right. Yeah, no, there are. I think there's just a lot more in the league in general.
Or a lot more that we lock up the ones that can actually go 6 innings.
Yeah, there's that, but I also wonder if we're just more willing to use these short guys than we used to be. If there's just a trend that people are more okay with it. Because I believe when I came into the league, people were arguing all the time about whether you could even go with a 4 stamina guy as a starter, and now we all just do it all the time.
And I think part of that is driven by the fact that we're all so PAP conscious now that we don't care. Especially you get guys like, obviously not even counting the Cyclone, but even guys like Steven and Fred who don't even let their guys come anywhere near. They're cutting them off at 85 or 90 pitches.
Well, some of that's PAP, some of that's...
So it doesn't matter.
Some of that is... I wonder if OTP has or is going to start taking into account the whole times through the order penalty. If it does do that, or if Marcus confirms that they're going to do that or are doing that, then you're really going to see people start limiting pitch counts.
Then you're going to see... yeah.
even with the PAP, like, what's the point of a 8 stamina starter? Who cares? You know, like, it's the sort of thing where it's like, okay, so they can throw 150 pitches before their arm falls off. Great. They're going to get hurt. I'm not going to do it. You know, like, I'm happy if a starter has 6. I don't even know that you need 6 stamina. 5 might be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the holdouts in that regard, in that I like my guys to have stamina. I don't know why. It's just something that
makes you feel better. Feel safe.
You'll rarely see me with a guy below. I don't think I have any 5s, and I don't even think I have that many 6s. That's just how, I don't know why. It's just one of those things that I have. Probably part of it is left over from when I didn't do pitch counts and I did run them out there for 110 pitches a game. Well, but yeah, I don't know. It's just a different way. It does kind of limit the market if I also think you can only have so many low stamina starters on your team before you start really taxing your pen.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but I just think there's just that the game's going to change, and we're just going to have to deal with it. Last reliever on the list is Miguel Macias. So the average on him is 2 years for 7.25.
And he is asking for 2.9.
Yeah, I think that.
And as somebody who had Macias last year, his extension demands were like 4 for 38.
Right, so he demanded $40 million so he could go to free agency and ask for 2.
And I told him to go.
It just makes no sense. It's so unreasonable. I think I would rather pay him 2 than I think everybody else.
As would I.
I don't know that I would pay him the lowest offer on this list. So the lowest offer on this list is yours for 1 for $5 million. I put him I thinking he would get like 5 per year for 2 years. There are people that are thinking he's 10. There's a 10 per year in there.
I wonder. I mean, they're probably betting on the fact that last year was a blip.
I think last year was not a blip. That would be my
no. I don't know if he's necessarily going to get worse this year, but that might be his new normal instead of the back-to-back Egan winning years that he had.
Right. I mean, he was pretty good last year. He was still, but he's just a sub 4 fifth reliever, which isn't. That's this is where you're talking about. This is coming back. There's no such thing as a $5 or $6 million reliever, and I think that's what Miguel Macias might end up being. And sometimes you do get a bargain in free agency, but if you find yourself bidding $4 to $5 million on a reliever in free agency, you really need to think about what you're doing, because either you're underbidding a guy who will never go that cheap, or you're bidding somebody up probably, or you're paying. There's not a natural price point there. It can happen, but it's odd. So that wraps it up for the pitchers. I think we'll break this into 2 parts, so it's not a huge monotonous slog. Do you want to go through here and try to do some sort of prediction with this? Whether you think they'll get? Well, we kind of did that as we were going. I don't know.
Well, and
I'm trying to find a way to make this a little bit more interesting.
Well, you have my numbers. I gave my predictions with my.
Yeah, I did, but I don't want to pull that spreadsheet open. It's too many. I already have a billion windows open, and it makes me nuts.
That's fair.
Okay, so let's.
I think Flores will come in right around 25.
Tell you what, let's go through here really quick, and we'll go over and under on all these. Okay. So
I can do that.
Flores, are you taking the over or the under?
On 20, over.
Yeah, me too. I'm over. Greenwood, over or under?
I think he ends up right around that, but if I had to guess, I would say slightly over.
Yeah.
I'm doing average annual value. I'm not doing total value.
Yeah. We're doing average annual.
Yeah.
Because we're talking GM side now, not player side. So yeah, I'm with you on over. Enrique Gomez, over.
Under.
Under? Okay.
Under.
What did I bid? I'm going to take the over. Rios?
I think he probably goes over.
Yeah, I get that too. Georges?
Under.
I'm going to take over. Pepe Castillo.
You think he gets 8 figures a year?
I don't want to do it, but I think someone does.
That's
Pepe Castillo.
Under.
Yeah, I agree. Luis Ortega. This is hard. I don't even
Over.
know.
I think he's
Okay. Because I think these are dead
12
on.
million, 12 million for 12 million for a reliever is a lot.
He's super
but
good. Bakitsky?
Over.
Yeah, me too. Rin.
Under. I think his inconsistency will cause people to be a little bit cautious.
I've got. Oh man. Yeah. Under? Okay. No. Oh. Jeez. Yeah, under. Okay, under. No, over. I'm going over on Ren. Changed my mind. Macias.
Under 6.2.
Yeah,
I'm negative Nancy on these.
I'm going under as well. So this is interesting, right? What we're saying then is that we think that market forces are going to drive these players higher than their contract asks, largely here, correct?
But lower than what we think they're worth.
Well,
as a group,
because I think largely these predictions were based upon the prices we've seen, the higher prices we've seen in free agency recently, and most of these actually, you know what? On the good players, the demands are on the pitchers anyway. The demands are not really different from what these expect. We actually got really close to most of their asking prices.
Like Flores, I think is fair asking for
24, and look at like Greenwood's asking for 16, and we had predicted right around 16. Rios is asking for 13. We're right at 11. That's not that close, but it's not that far off. Ortega's asking for 11.1. Bakitsky's asking for 10.5.
And we said Ortega would be like 11.4, I think.
Yeah, and we've got Bakitsky at like averaging on guesses 9.8, but both of us are taking the over, and that's probably, the pitching. Ren's asking for 8, and we're right around there. I think we predicted the pitching contrast asks pretty well, and then with
the notable exception of Macias, but that one's a weird one,
right? But yeah, and on top of that, like we're saying market forces will probably drive these up a little bit, but I think the group did pretty good.
I agree. Well done, us. High five.
Yeah. Okay, so let's call it. Let's take a break there, and we'll come back in a little bit and do batter. So, thanks everybody for listening to this, and hope you enjoyed it. That's a little dry. It's just a lot of numbers, but I think it's at least kind of fun, interesting stuff. So, thanks, Randy, and we will take a little break here if you're okay with that.
Cheers.